and won't have to prove someone else was at fault. But the Bar Association's Elizabeth Welsh is slamming the proposal. She says in the long run it will result in
a very significant reduction in benefits for injured people. We don't understand why that's necessary.
At State Parliament, Katie Kimberley, Macquarie National News.
A school has been evacuated at Chatswood after 11 people felt dizzy and fainted. Firefighters were called to the scene on Archer Street about 2 hours ago, believing it was a gas leak. But it appears to have just been a ventilation issue. Ambulance spokeswoman Jackie Levitt says 5 people were taken to hospital.
Initial reports that a female in her early teens had fainted. On arrival, paramedics found there were more patients to treat with different conditions from dizziness to nausea. Fire brigade evacuated the building and a hazmat issue was declared. The area has now been evacuated.
Former Prime Minister John Howard has told Americans his ban on assault weapons wasn't a political issue, but a matter of public safety. US President Barack Obama is pushing for a similar measure after the Connecticut school massacre. Mr Howard has told CNN Australian farmers were harder to convince.
We were able to use the power of public outrage, plus the fact that my government had just been elected with a big majority, persuade the states to agree to implement the nationwide ban. And if they hadn't have agreed, we almost certainly would have held a referendum.
We're being urged to recognise the challenges and triumphs achieved by millions of people with Asperger's syndrome around the world. Today is International Asperger's Day. Asperger's expert Dr Renee Beaumont says 1 in every 250 people in Australia live with the condition.
The importance of today is promoting awareness of Asperger's syndrome and not just recognising the challenges that people with Asperger's syndrome have, but also the successes and great achievements that they've made and their contribution to society.
In finance, the All Ords is up 27 points at 50.82 and $1 Australian dollar is buying 102.87 US cents.
Good afternoon, I'm Georgina Smyth with Hunter News. Police are searching for 2 males after a break-in at Tanambit. A 44-year-old woman was awoken by the sounds of an intruder in her Blackley Avenue home in the early hours of the morning. Senior Constable Tony Tamplin says a man met up with another outside the house before fleeing the scene.
44-year-old woman was asleep in her home in Blackley Avenue in Tanambit. Now, she was woken by the sound of a cigarette lighter being flicked on. She looked and saw a male standing in her doorway, yelled at him, and he immediately ran off back out of the house. The woman got up and saw the male had linked up with a second male, and they were running off down the street towards Jenner Street.
Newcastle's urban renewal strategy will take centre stage at a summit this afternoon by the Property Council of Australia. The summit hopes to produce a set of recommendations following the renewal strategy announced by the state government last year. The centrepiece of the strategy is the cutting of the rail line and construction of a new transport interchange at Wickham. Hunter Director of Property Council Australia, Andrew Fletcher, says the task force now wants input from CBD players, property owners and developers.
Today's summit's all about bringing together a bit of a CBD brains trust to actually formulate a set of recommendations to government. So we've had a task force looking at the detail of the strategy for the best part of a month now, and today is really all about widening the net of good ideas so that we capture all the critical issues and so that the business groups around town are presenting a united front to government.
Singleton Council's stance on coal seam gas will be retested tonight as they consider an exploration application from AGL. The Gas Explorer has applied for an access agreement with Council to use road reserves for seismic exploration. Council last year unanimously rejected a similar request. Singleton Mayor John Martin says Council will be conscious of any impacts to local industries.
I'm protective of the vineyard areas around Singleton and anywhere. And I'm also protective of the tourist industry. And I don't wish to see a disruption of anything to interfere with those particular industries.
The South Maitland Rail Bridge may soon have a name, with proposals to call the link the J.L. Horseman Bridge after a Hunter man. John Lodge Horseman devoted his life to Hunter coal industry and is considered a suitable person to name the Loxford Bridge after. The community is invited to comment on the naming of the bridge before March 18. The proposed introduction of angled parking on Hunter Street has been met with criticism. Submissions against the proposal say the initiative would cause problems for bus services and traffic in Newcastle. Hunter Community Council Secretary Graham Boyd says angled parking would create major transport issues in the city.
But it will impact upon the area of the street that needs to be dedicated for bus services. If those buses are restricted to one signal traffic lane with cars, the service will not be effective. It will also impact upon cars and impact upon Cooks Hill in that area.
Hunter small businesses can catch the Small Biz Bus this afternoon as it arrives in Newcastle. The bus gives small businesses a chance to meet up with business experts for free advice and services. The bus will be at the corner of Derby and Queen Street till 5 p.m. today. New South Wales Small Business Commissioner Yasmin King says the initiative was launched last year and hopes to bring light to problems facing small businesses.
So it was really an opportunity to build on the fact that we've now got a network of 60-odd advisors across the state providing face-to-face advisory services to businesses.
Updating sport, the Newcastle Knights have had a successful start to this year with an 18-6 win in their trial match against the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Tyrone Roberts was the star of the game, who will find himself in next month's season opener. Coach Wayne Bennett says getting to travel for the trial matches is good for the game.
Yeah, I think these things are so important to the game that we do this every year, come to Coffs and Port Macquarie and Tamworth next week to show everybody that the game is just bigger than the NRL. I think we do a lot of good with that.
The Newcastle Jets are hoping they can keep their finals hopes alive after their 2-0 win over Melbourne Heart. The Jets have 6 games left this season and prepare to take on Brisbane Roar next week. Coach Gary Van Egmond says players will be properly managed to ensure they're given enough rest as they prepare to face 4 games in 15 days. In cricket, Newcastle City's Richard Wharton managed to have an innings of endurance after scoring 140 runs against Wallsend at Wallsend Oval. His performance follows on from City's win last week against Belmont. 2NURFM news time is 10 past 12.
The award-winning real estate team at our sponsor Elders Real Estate Lambton are local people with local knowledge. For real estate buying, selling and for property management, talk to Sue